Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 32nd edition of the webinar under the Storage and Handling Knowledge series. We are very happy and excited to note that this journey continues without any interruption month after month since the last more than 2.5 years. And all this is thanks to the participation and the encouragement that we have received from all the audiences who have been following this platform and have been contributing by virtue of their feedback and their suggestions, recommendations, and lot of motivations in terms of encouraging words. Thank you so much. As you know, this platform has been created to share pure knowledge. We never use this platform for any product launch or any promotion. We just intend to give back to the society in the form of knowledge, whatever that we have gained since last more than 6 decades of our existence in this particular space. In this journey, we have been very fortunate to have the support of many industry leaders, experts who have graced this platform by their presence and their valuable knowledge, and which has made these interactions much more enriching for all of us. And we are really thankful to all these industry experts. As you would recall, in the last 31 sessions, we have tried to touch upon various aspects within the intralogistics space. We have spoken about the types of warehouses. We have spoken about the safety and maintenance practices. We have spoken about the various types of material handling equipment. We have also spoken about the various types of commercial transactions that has happened. We have also had experts speaking about automations in this particular space. So basically, if you look at our journey, we have tried to touch upon each and every aspect of that intralogistic space, which will really help our audience to get some sort of takeaway from these interactions. Now, as you understand that anybody who is working in a particular industry uh, is becomes quite an expert in the nuances of that particular industry. But if you want to know something from some other industry which is impacting your day-to-day work life, your day-to-day productivity and efficiency, it always helps if that information is available in a very simple and easily understandable way. And this is exactly what we try to cover in this in such sessions where we are able to not only put across the complicated concepts in a simple way, but also tell you the most relevant concepts which you can actually use on a day-to-day basis. That's the whole fundamental of having this session. The other important aspect is we understand and we respect your time, that it may not be always be possible for you to make yourself available exactly at the time when this event is happening live. But we always share the recordings post the event so that you can access any time that you want. And even people who have attended, in case they want to go back to certain fundamentals, certain concepts, the recordings are readily available for you to like access at any point in time. So that's the purpose of having this knowledge capsule, so that they remain available at for usage at any point in time. Now, today's session is quite interesting. So, as I said, that we have covered various aspects of the intralogistic space, and in that journey, we have also spoken about various design elements of warehouses at some point in time. So, today we are going to talk about the return on investments for a warehouse. Now, with uh, national logistics policy being launched by the government in 2022, we understand that there is a lot of focus on this particular space. The main intention being that India's logistics cost, which is quite high as compared to the developed economies, that is brought under control. Now, and that in turn, like brings a lot of competitiveness to India as a country while competing with the global majors. One of the most important elements of that particular block is a warehouse. And if we are investing and if we are inviting investments from a on a warehouse, it is important for us to understand what are the various elements which define the cost elements and what will define the various aspects which will guarantee you a return on your investment in a warehouse. So today this is going to be an interactive session, and it is my absolute pleasure and privilege to have Mr. Dilip Kawathekar on this forum to talk about this particular topic. And Mr. Kawathekar is the CEO of Space Systems, and which is an organization engaged in designing and providing complete solutions for storage and material handling needs for warehouses since last 35 years in India and abroad. And he is also an expert in providing solutions for rack-supported warehouses in India and abroad since last 20 years. He has designed cold rolled sections for the first time in India, and this is working as a replacement to conventional hot rolled sections. And he's also assisted Godrej Interior for open plan office systems and special furnitures. Dilip ji, we could not have had a better speaker and expert than yourself to talk about this important topic. So, just to set the ball rolling in this interactive discussion, if you before we get into the cost elements part of it, if you could guide us on the different types of warehouses as per your understanding or definition, and what is the proposed methodology generally for storage of goods as per your understanding and fundamentals. If you could just begin with that basic information, and then we can get a bit deeper into the next elements of our discussion.
Yeah, good afternoon. I must thank Godrej and you all, a team of good professionals, for having called me in this particular topic. And I would like to share some of the experiences which I have had since last so many years based upon my exposures. So when we talk about warehouses, and when we talk about the cost element of the warehouses, let us see what type of warehouses we are looking for, because every warehouse has got its own challenge, different system to be worked out, and there are so many variables involved in it. So see, there are two types of major I'm talking about. I will be talking about the major aspects only. So one warehouse is in the premises of a manufacturing unit where the raw material manufacturing setup is there, where the raw material is there, that has to be stored, or the finished goods is to be stored, or maybe the work in progress has to be stored. So this is one kind of a case where the warehouse is in the manufacturing setup only. Another is a type of a setup where there are distribution warehouses, or for 3PLs or e-commerce, or for some manufacturing units only have their own regional distribution centers. So there only the incoming goods are there, or C&F agents. So these are the two types of basic types of warehouses we are looking for. Now, when we talk about the storage of goods, our main concern would be to the mechanized handling, that is palletized warehouse, because there are some low weighing goods also and manual handling which is done, which is conventionally being done in so many years. They are also now taking a new shape, and they are also going for the new systems. But mostly the palletized mechanical handling and palletized system should be taken care of. Now, the
Right.
third point is when we are talking about the basic parameters, when we talk, let us also see what is the throughput requirement of that particular warehouse, incoming and outgoing goods, or what kind of a cycle, traffic cycle or working cycle required, and making available the output in like ready for sale RFS. So these are the things which needs to be seen.
Right. So, as I had mentioned in the beginning of this session, that we are going to talk about some very basic stuff. So, people who are from this industry, it may sound very basic, but we have to appreciate the fact that there are people from other industry. For them, this is something that they may not be very readily aware of. So, please pardon us if we are covering some basic stuff in this journey. But it is for the benefit of a bigger audience who are not from this industry and who are trying to get some know-how and maybe implement those learnings in their day-to-day work and get some benefit out of that. Now, with that, Dilipji, very simply and very like interestingly, you have put the various parameters which are there for consideration in a warehouse. Now, we are talking about getting returns on investment from a warehouse. Okay. Now let's get a bit deeper into that. When we talk about the return on investments, before that we of course have to talk about the cost elements. Now cost elements can be very wide. So let me try to structure my question into two broad parts. Now there is block one. Block one is what where you are trying to set up a warehouse. Okay. And right from barren land to a fully functional warehouse with all the infrastructure put in place. Now that is ready to be taken by the industry. That is block one. There will be some cost elements right from the land to the infrastructure cost required for building up that block. The second would be the block two. Now this functional warehouse, when it is handed over for operations, that would have a certain another set of cost elements. Both these put together will give you an ROI for a particular warehouse. Now, today's discussion, uh, we would be focusing more on the block one, where we are trying to say that right from barren land to a fully functional warehouse, once that block is ready, what are the various elements there and how we handle and take care of those elements to make sure that we have a structure which has a high ROI or a like a lower payback period. Okay, because the second part will be totally dependent on the industry for which that particular warehouse has been allocated, like a textile or an automobile or e-commerce. The requirements and needs of each of these industry in terms of throughput, space requirements, the pallets, the loads may be totally varying from each other, and the parameters may also change accordingly. So if we are able to get a clarity on block one, I think a majority part will be addressed of getting an ROI from a warehouse. So Dilipji, do you agree with this approach if we conduct our discussion in
I
this
think
format?
this is right thing which you have spoken about. In fact, what we we can give an analogy to it, that the first part of a design of a complete warehouse is just like providing a hardware to any kind of a system, and the second part is a kind of a software to it. I mean, operating a functional warehouse is an operating part. So let us first start digging into the design aspect and having some basic understanding. And you also said very rightly, Abhishek, that there are some places where we will go in a very basic. There are some places we will, presume that our audience is having that much of knowledge about that thing. So we will be having a mix of the things. So they are definitely more for the large audience which you're catering to.
Right, right. So now, once we've understood the direction of this discussion, can you first help us with the information on what would be the main cost elements of a warehouse? What would you spell out like as a list that these are the cost elements that we need to look at?
Okay. Let me go into that in details. When we talk about designing a warehouse, then there are some variables available with us and some inputs which are possible to be selected, uh, which is there for the optimization of our design. Optimization of a warehouse, and warehouse cost will be optimized only if we take care of these variables and these inputs in a most efficient and effective way. Now, the first thing is that when we talk about manufacturing warehouse, then the location feasibility is not there because the manufacturing hub is already there. But when we have a kind of a feasibility requirement of a leased land or a purchased land, there are some places where the land is cheaper, but the target market connectivity or logistic requirements are not met with. So this we have to take care of. This element we have to take about the location feasibility. Now there is another very important part is the size of the warehouse and the cost of civil work of the floor area. Why I'm saying is that the civil work is a major part of a warehouse cost, and the size of the warehouse, the length and the width of the warehouse, and the optimization of number of pallets in a warehouse is all depending upon how you have a low or high rise racking system. And therefore, we need to design a system by the requirement of the pallets. How many pallets we will be requiring, because the cost per pallet is definitely lower when we go up high. But the MHE also, cost of MHE also goes high. But in totality, there are three major elements. One is the civil floor, second is the racking system, and the third is a material handling MHE cost. So when we talk about these things, we'll have to design a system in such a manner that there is a saving in each of these three major elements. Now we talk about the layout selection of the maximization of pallet movements in less time. This is also depending upon the type of MHE we take or the type of size of plot available. But what we prefer that we let us have more length of a warehouse than the width, because more length will have lesser aisle widths, number of aisle widths, and therefore there would be more density of number of pallets. More pallets will be there in the required area. So that needs to be seen. The next point is coming up. we'll have to see whether the warehouse is an ambient warehouse and a cold sub-zero temperature warehouse. Because in cold sub-zero temperatures, the elements and the requirements change because we have to optimize the cubicle space of the warehouse for the efficient cooling and long-term saving. And we have to also do the perishable goods management. So these are the basic variables which are there, which are required to be seen in the optimization process.
So, Dilipji, before we proceed, I just had one sort of a follow-through question. The third point that you mentioned, that more the length, lesser the preferred for aisle space. Now, in terms of just your experience, like how does changing the orientation, like in case of either like instead of placing the aisle along the length of the warehouse, if we try to place it along the width of the warehouse, and if the width is lower than the length, do you think it will impact the optimization of space in any way?
Yeah, in fact, that's the reason I'm saying that if the throughput time is not that demanding, or there is no kind of a high traffic management of the input and output goods, then this such kind of layout has helped in the long term, saving of the cost.
Right.
Of course,
right.
The operational costs are also to be seen, and then it is to be weighed very minutely. That many times it is at the cost of the throughput time also. Number of pallets which are being handled in that time of period. But mostly in the major part of it, it has been found that the cost of warehouses are majorly there in civil cost also, and the cost of the building. So in that case, such kind of working, and there are some material handling equipment when we go up on the next generation MHEs, they also prefer, you are the better judge of it, they also prefer the longer lengths of the racks than the shorter.
Right.
Because if you have a pallet this ASRS or maybe VNA truck or maybe any kind of a semi-automatic or thing, or maybe you also see the radio pallet shuttle. So the longer it has got, it is better to have that way.
Right. So you spoke about three broad elements of the cost in a warehouse. One is the civil construction. The second is the racking, and third is the MHE. Now, within civil construction, I'm considering everything like the power infrastructure, the lighting, everything, ventilation, everything.
Means so the building also.
The building also. Now, if we have to broadly allocate percentages to it, that these three blocks, what broadly percentages would be? Can you give us some approximation?
See, the maximum is the infrastructure cost, maybe more than 50 to 60%. And in the major cases, because if the your MHE or your system is not very dense, or there is a normal racking system or double deep or that kind of in a general way. But then if your system becomes more and more technically advanced, then the cost of other items go up. But in all totality, I find that cost of civil and infrastructure is a one-time cost, but that costs a lot.
Right, right, right. So understood. Uh, at this point, I'd just like to request the audience that if they have any queries, please post it on the chat box, and we'll take the queries as we move along, so that all of us can participate in this interesting discussion. Now, Dilip ji, you spoke about the elements about building, racking, MHE. Are there any other cost elements that you would like to talk about?
See, there are some, you know, sub part of these elements, like when we talk about racking system, then the things comes to the pallet size and its weight and the quantity to be stored. People, what they do not, take care of these things while designing a warehouse. Normally, if we have a bigger size of the pallet size, it will be a maximization or optimization of space, because if you have, but the possibility of such kind of SKUs are to be there, like your SKUs need boxes or maybe drums or maybe IBCs or bags or cement types of bags. So if, I mean, there are some cases where we change their pallet sizes with their consent only, 1200 by 1200, and they found that the cost of the warehouse was reduced by 10%. And
Okay.
secondly, that we have to also see the maximization of weight. So, but there are some limitations of derating in the MHEs. When we go up more than 7 to 8 meters, then derating starts. So that also has to be kept in the mind while selecting kind of a height and the weight combination. So what we can think of having is a package of 1200 by 1200 by height between 1200 to 1500. These are found to be quite optimum working pallet sizes. But we are just talking about general terminology. Now, we also need to understand about the staging area and quarantine area or utilities of office administration and utilization of space and all. So when we talk about such kind of things, people, allow very liberal space for these things also. So they are also to be, slightly to be understood properly. And usage of mezzanine floor also needs to be introduced. And in case of the utilization space in the staging area or docking area, where the height requirement is not there to that extent. So such kind of optimization of 3D space needs to be seen in this particular case. And the FIFO and LIFO system also needs to be checked. But many times what happens is that people want a selective pallet racking, but their batch sizes and other things, of keeping the things. Double deep is also possible many places, but they don't understand this, because if we take a double deep racking system, then in one bin we have 4 pallets, but if it is a 6 high racking system, then we have 24 pallets. But many times what happens that when you talk about dispatching any kind of a pallet goods, then one type of pallet is not so diversified or assorted. Many times it is such that minimum 32 or more than 48 and some kind of a thing. So in that case, if we select double deep, then definitely our aisle space becomes less. So such kind of effective working needs to be done, which is not properly done in particular cases. Because this solution also needs a kind of a careful experts handling. So
Right.
when architects and other people, with due respect, they do. There are few architects who have come to understand about these things.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they allocate warehouse areas, they take care of these things. Otherwise, many times what happens that these solutions are to be provided into the areas which they decide on some kind of a thumb rule. So
Right.
let us those end users need to be given this kind of an understanding. End users should consider this aspect while designing the total manufacturing production area and all these things. So allocation of warehouse needs to be meticulously be seen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. So, Dilipji, this is quite interesting that not just the land, but how the space within the land is designed will impact your return on investment, right? So, uh, if we talk about the infrastructure within, what are the various storage systems which are available and what people need to consider when they are designing their warehouse?
See, if you see the slide, everybody knows there are these types of racking systems are there. One is a single deep selective racking system, which is very ideal for FIFO system, first in, first out system. And for those assorted SKUs, it is very convenient also. And whenever you have to pick anything, we need to pick it and you can go for it. But when we talk about such kind of working, when we'll have to really think of uh, less type of SKUs, because people have that kind of a tendency that they said one of the cases where chemical companies there, they said that they have around 1100 SKUs. But when they came to sort it and categorize it, it was done in proper way, like automobile industry also. They have several types of press parts and other parts, or some different types of forges and some kind of small parts and all these things. But everything can come down to such kind of a generalization of lesser SKUs as far as the palletization is concerned. So double deep then can be used. And in the multi-deep system, when there is a drive-in and drive-through, single type of a material is there, or very 2 or 3 types of SKUs are there, then it is good to have such kind of a multi-deep drive-in system, 7 to 8 deep. Many times it may be also drive-through. It comes first in and then first outside, but then cannot be a selective one. But so many people have now gone for such kind of a working also, not in India also and abroad also, that like beans, soya beans and other things, different type of agricultural beans and this thing. So they have decided that they have single type of requirement, or maybe very less requirement. So they go for a multi-tree. Then we always have been talking about all the palletized system, but many times what happens that people also have gone for a mechanical handling, or maybe manual handling also. When we talk about a manual handling, then we go for a tire system, multi-tier system and shelving system like we have in base price, or in these metro and other places. where they use such kind of working. But that is a kind of a mixed system in which the racks are there as well as the shelving system is there, and shelving system is from the catwalk and decking system. Now there are new kind of working is there coming, the like radio pallet shuttle racking system in which the radio pallets are being used for multi-deep racking, storage and retrieval. And it is done in a semi-automatic way or kind of a remote controlled way. And of course, now people have really in India, people have now going where the requirement is such that ASRS, that is automation of the automatic retrieval and storage, is now possible. And we have found that automation has proved that the automation calculation has been found that in 7 or 8 years or maybe 9 years, the return of investment of ASRS is there if the requirement is there, if the quantity is there, if the throughput or traffic is there. So depends upon the now investment possibility and the requirement of the pallets.
Right. So, Dilipji, we have a question from the audience. I think while we are in the conversation, let us integrate the questions which will make it much more interactive. So we have got a very interesting question which talks about, or rather queries about how to maximize ROI in facilities with discrete storage or non-palletized storage. See, right now we are talking about racking systems, which essentially we are talking about either palletized racking system or uh, each picking or piece picking in manual storage systems like shelving systems and all that. But if it is a warehouse with a discrete storage and there are various systems like conveyors, ABOPTs, AMRs in that particular working. So what sort of investments do we need to do to get an ROI from such a facility where discrete storages uh, are the order of the day?
See, such kind of working statistics is not right now available. Have been not calculated. But when we talk about discrete, I mean, what kind of material, what kind of a movement they are anticipating in this particular kind of a warehouse? Because optimization of a warehouse is possible by providing the multi-tier racking system or multi-tier mezzanine floors or multi-tier shelving systems, where the manually and by goods lifts and other things, people can manage that kind of a thing. So,
Right.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. Please.
So, so when we talk about in this particular case, which kind of material they would like to, because when you talk about the this conveyor system and other systems, they are broadly very specific requirements. I mean, we are now talking about the major kind of a scope of our discussion.
Right.
And
right.
this particular kind of a warehouse and other things are very they are different type of a genre.
No, I understand. So I think the query was mainly to do with that in case any racking system is not in consideration, so will there be still a business case for getting an ROI from that particular space through using automation or fixed path equipment like conveyors and all that, or is it necessary to have a racking system? Is another perspective that I'm trying to draw from
Yeah,
the question.
yeah. I see. That's why I'm saying that that is a different kind of a take. It's a
Mhm.
different take itself because it has changed its premises from the basics.
Right, right,
And
right.
these basic premises. See, I think today every third or fourth warehouse is like this, that they are not using racking system.
That's very
Or
interesting,
there is no
as you
mechanized
say.
system. There is no kind of a working system.
Mhm.
So that cannot be considered to be a kind of a efficient warehouse.
Mhm. Mhm.
So efficient warehouse without racking system, then they with different the type of uh, there are some places where they are not using the the height of the warehouse. So it
Mhm.
is not an optimum utilization.
Right, right, right. So the other thing is that when we talk about racking system, obviously there has to be a compatible equipment which can access these systems. So would you like to recommend some equipment which can go in sort of coordination with these systems?
Yeah, everybody is now aware of the new generation systems list. Since last 20 to 25 years now, these things have come to stay. But I have seen the area at the time when there were only forklifts and some stackers were there. And forklift was a multi-purpose, all-purpose kind of a very secular kind of a equipment where it can be used for anything. So it requires different type of height, only height up to say very limited height and weight also. Weight may be more, and then we uh, you know we developed ourselves into a kind of a next generation uh, warehouse equipment separately. These warehouse equipments are separately different. They are not, but still I'm finding big organizations, big top names also using having that kind of a knowledge. They don't know about the reach trucks and they said that forklift is the only available. They don't. They even call reach truck also. They call forklifts.
Yeah, that's right.
So
I understand.
so
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that when we talk about the less kind of space requirement of pallets, then we can go for a low height racking system, and then the stackers and forklifts they can be decided. But even then, the forklifts are to be avoided because they are for now some different purpose, and now the stackers are even reach trucks of a lower category are very well within the budget also and within the efficient working of
Mhm.
a warehouse.
Mhm.
So when we talk about reach trucks, then lot many good ideas come into mind to play with, and then we go for a higher racking system, and the higher racking system up to 10 meters, 11 meters, even maybe 12 meters. Because last so many years I have found even Godrej has developed reach trucks ranging from 7 meters to now 12 meters zip. So, so this is the kind of a modification in the scenario of material handling equipment in Indian scenario also, where the foreign brands and foreign equipment are also available for special purpose requirement, and even Indian brands have now come to offer them, like Godrej, a good kind of a solution to the restruct.
Right.
What often talking about single deep restruct is now available in India, but now double deep is still into a kind of research on anvil. So I think Godrej has also come with double deep restruct sooner or later. Am I correct?
Mhm. Yeah, we are working on that. So,
Should,
but
I
yeah,
mean,
in the industry,
so
these are available. So Dilip ji, I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm really sorry about this. But the topic about racking and MHE, we have covered in absolute detail in few of the earlier sessions, and I think audience would have access to the recordings of each of these things. So, but it's a very interesting take on a different perspective that all three blocks have their role to play in the getting the ROI of the product. I would like to discuss something which uh, we have not covered so far, but it's very important. One of the important topics which is discussed today is about green or sustainability. Okay. Now, what are those factors which people generally talk about, and how do we address those things in a way which take care of the environment also, but at the same time they are able to offer a proper ROI also. Like it's like a win-win situation. You are not harming the environment also, and at the process you are having a saving also. Can you throw some light on that?
yeah, actually, when we talk about now designing a warehouse, then the warehouse requirement, warehouse becomes a kind of an entity in itself. And when it talks about an entity, it is given a proper kind of a importance also. So when we talk about the designing and this thing, uh, we take care of the translucent sheets, providing translucent sheets uh, in the aisles, because you only require light in the aisles in the daylight. So the proper natural light in the aisles are provided, and that too only 5 to 6% would be enough, because more you give, there would be a more kind of a temperature increment increase would be there. So because of the natural lights and proper light at the proper place, the electricity is saved during the daytime. And there is a kind of a possibility is being now taken care by so many clients to have captive power sufficiency by providing a solar system on the roof. So many times what happens now, if you talk about the requirement of power in a warehouse itself, it is not that big a requirement. So when we talk about placing a solar system on it, there will be additional generation of the power also, and accordingly the layout also is, if considered and is properly placed, then we can have a more and more power inputs by providing solar power system in a warehouse. So this is where we also get a kind of a saving, because I have seen that lighting also in the warehouse and in the whole factory makes a very big expense element. So that element is slightly reduced in the warehouse. And then there are some wind extractors and turbo ventilators, like we call it, with the luvers, by making a natural draft, air draft, so that the air circulation in a warehouse is more important, because human resources are working there. So they need to be taken care of that way. And it is now also possible for having an water harvesting or a recycling of water and other things in this particular warehouse. So now people have really considered that kind of a energy conservation in a very big way. They are going, many people now in the new green field projects, these things are being taken care of.
Right, right. So
People
another,
still have also gone into a kind of a safety considerations to that extent that
right.
fire sprinklers are being provided
Mhm.
in warehouses, and now Indian codes for the fire safety, fire protection, and all these things have now gone slightly stricter. So the insurance people also have gone. So the fire sprinkler system and designing that from the beginning is also of the call of the day.
Right. So before we move on, we have got another question from the audience, which is talking about when we go for VNA, very narrow aisle equipment, man up VNA, and a compatible racking system of a higher height. The investments, the initial investments are very high. So
Hmm.
in such cases, how do we like look at ROI for such investments, where the initial investments are at a very high level for these two blocks of racking and MHE, apart from the land cost, of course.
See, the major, they are always weighed against the uh, cost of human resources. Because like 2, 3 places where we had taken this kind of a analysis, we find that by using such kind of machines, there would be the calculation was done that how many labor or uh, people, I mean all the kind of at all levels, how many people will be saved, their salaries, their increment, their other things. And the calculation was found to be the ROI was given at around 7 to 8 or 9 years. Now, whether this 9 years ROI is enough or not, that is a separate issue.
Right,
But there are two different types. There are another advantages which cannot be quantified into the cost element, money element. That is the improvement of efficiency and catering to their market immediately at the earliest and without any such kind of a delay. Because many times what happens that the demand and supply was compromised, and that is why various places where we found that people have done gone for VNA trucks and all these things. It is because their requirement of like pharmaceutical companies or chemical companies or various types such kind of companies where the offtake is very huge and within a limited period of time.
right. So, Dilip ji, I did not realize that the topic is so vast and the time is so short that we'll suddenly find ourselves to be end of the committed time. But I would still like to ask you, maybe we would extend this webinar by another 5 minutes. We have, as per the schedule time, we have 5 more minutes to go. But I think we can take 5 more minutes, and I think audience will be kind enough to accept this extension in the discussion, because this is going very interesting. We would like to understand, because we know for a fact that you are an expert in rack supported warehouse designing. So if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
could take us through the concept, how does it help us and how does it impact the ROI in the next few minutes, it will be really be very beneficial for the audience.
Yeah, I think I can sum it up within 5 minutes or maybe 5 to 7 minutes. But I think it will be interesting for people to understand about the benefit which is derived from the rack supported warehouse
Yeah,
concept.
please proceed, Mr. Dilip.
So I'll just read down some. I mean, I'll just try to tell people that when we talk about any kind of a rack, any warehouse, we find a floor, a cemented floor. Then there is a pre-engineering building or construction building, and then we have a racking system installed in that. So it is like providing a car parking in a garage or a truck which is being parked in a garage.
Mhm.
Now we talk about a concept of warehouse building, which is rack supported. That means the racks are first made. If you can see my slide, the racks are first made, and racking structure is so designed to take care of the dynamic forces of winds and seismic loads, which otherwise would have been taken care by the pre-engineering building. But the total superstructure load is evenly distributed at so many points. So that is why the total load distribution is not concentrated but evenly distributed, and that is where some kind of economics comes to. So I have some kind of a basic economic cost saving data also available, but broad data. You see the concept of a racking system, and then you see the racks are there, and out of from that rack only we have used superstructure we have fixed, and on that superstructure and the side structures we have installed trusses and the purlins, and on these trusses and purlins the sheets are fixed. So if you see, it is a kind of a designed to the precise design parameters of plus minus 5 to 10 mm, and this is a typical layout in which you see that the layout is there. There is a staging area and a area of racking system. So the racking system is a system where the kind of double deep system is there, then the trusses are there, and there is no wastage of space for the pre-engineering building columns or RCC columns and other things. They are all done away with. So the cost economy comes in this such a manner that there is a saving of civil floor area up to 5 to 10%, by saving area of pre-engineering building columns all the sides. If you find that, if you see that pre-engineering buildings are there, then there is an envelope of around 1 to 1.5 meters on all the sides. One major sides are width wise. If there is a width of 50-meter width of a warehouse, then after the columns are placed, that will become around 53 or 52.5 meters. So this particular in square meter, and that saved is a saving in the floor area I'm talking about, as well as the building area and the sheeting area and all this area. So this is the 10% of that particular thing. Then when we talk about the pre-engineering building, in normally given the heavy foundation footings which are given to the columns are also not given here. And because construction cost per square meter construction cost of any kind of a civil warehouse as 10,000 rupees a square meter, then the cost of this kind of a warehouse by virtue of providing less area and And third very important point is that this cost of superstructure like trusses, purlins and allied components, they are having very less span. And that's why the load requirement of a lesser span, they are economical. And that's why the total cost saving in the pre-engineering building cost is up to between 20 to 30%, depending upon the density of the racking system in comparison with this thing. So, of course, the sheeting cost same. If you see this particular drawing, if you see the pre-engineering building is being also shown there, and the warehouse size is given. So it is 35,000 is the size of rack supported warehouse. 36.8 is the minimum size of the width of 37 meter is the minimum size of the rack supported pre-engineering building. So this whole envelope of 1 meter to 1.5 meter is saved. And of course, then there is an additional strengthening is required to be done in racking system, where the structures are subject to the high winds pressure or seismic zone. But in considering all these things, I feel that the saving is up to 20%. More than 20%. We have taken this whole thing up to 35%, but in totality, if we find that this is about around 20 to 25%. And this is also a kind of a sizable chunk of cost, because if the ROI will definitely be better, because 20% is a kind of a very good thing. So I would like to show you some of the.
So Dilip ji, sorry. Because I think if there will be one takeaway from today's session, it will be this discussion that we are having right now about rack supported warehouse. Like a saving of 20% is huge. I'm just curious to know that when this saving is to such an extent, why is it that this concept is not getting popular? Are there any constraints which doesn't allow this concept to become popular in India?
Yeah, in fact, in India, it is slightly unpopular because of the major fact is that people are not that aware of the such kind of a benefit. But fortunately, now earlier we were to tell them about this particular kind of a thing. But now, fortunately, people have come to realize this and now asking for such kind of a thing. There are some misnorms also, normers also. Some misunderstanding about, because some people say that what if I want to change my production, this particular warehouse into a production area, then this will be redundant. Right. So I think this is also a wrong kind of a concept, because we have still around area of pre-engineering building outside this warehouse. So if somebody wants to play it, nobody does it. 99% people have not changed the warehouses, because warehouse requirement is there. If they want to go for a production, then where this production warehouse will have to be done somewhere else. Correct. So that is the huge kind of a change of scenario is there. But people now have come to this thing. These people where the district parks are there, or people having e-supplies and other things, they are not interested in this particular kind of a thing, because they are not owning that, they are giving it on the lease. So such kind of people have not yet, fallen for this. Okay, understood. And so Dilip, this has been quite interesting. So we did speak about the first block, but before we conclude, would you just like to touch upon the elements of cost in an operational warehouse? No, see, as you very rightly said earlier, only you have just spoken about what my mind was. See, it depends upon the process which you go through, and the manpower utilization, optimization strategies. There are some, logistic strategies. using various kind of methodology to rotate the things with much ease in efficient way. They cannot be directly be proportional, like warehouse management system with the bar QR codes, identification systems coming in, coming out, going into the SAP, and making it easily like when it is invoiced, then it is directly placed in all these things. Everything becomes a kind of a trouble-free and tension-free environment. So this becomes a kind of a, I mean, 2-3 companies have in abroad and in India also said that their efficiency has been improved to 6 to 9%. So I think improvement of the efficiency in itself, indirect saving and indirect cost element.
Right, right. So I would like to end our conversation with the last question that I think many people would be interested to understand. Is it worth investing in setting up a warehouse in India? Would you give a recommendation to people to invest in setting up a warehouse? Will they get a decent return on their investment?
Yeah, I think this particular concept of investment only for the warehouse is picked up since last 10 years in a big way, and we have found a boom of such kind of a warehouses, but of course not efficient warehouses, but such type of warehouses where the normal racking is there or something, not efficient way. But it has come into C&F agents. People have given like multinationals. So only thing is that now the district park concept also has come into play in Pune, Bombay, Mumbai, and even in Dindigal or that places, like in storage, cold storage systems, where such kind of investment is now being seen as a positive return giving investment, because now people, instead of having, even manufacturers have now deciding to do away with the investments in the warehouses or storage systems and giving it to the outside people with the total management, so that they can the assembly people like Volvo and other people, they have now gone to this kind of a thing where the lot of SKUs are there. So I think now there is a tremendous you know opportunity and in this particular line, in automobile line and in the e-commerce line and this line. I think I was just speaking to one of my friends recently. They said that big international companies are also giving now kind of a better kind of a per pallet return if your warehouse is managed with racking system and with the fill systems with the QR code and all these things, because they are their own international warehouses are now being run in that kind of an atmosphere, that kind of an ambience. So they would prefer now this particular thing in days to come. So such kind of investment is definitely there.
Right. So Dilip ji, I mean the discussion is, I would say it's warming up, but unfortunately we have completely run out of time. Rather, we have overshot by 10 minutes, and
Oh,
completely respecting the audience's time. I think we should bring our conversation to a close. But I think all of us agree that this is a very detailed topic, and what we wanted to cover in this short span of 60 minutes. I think we have covered the various aspects which impact the ROI of warehouse. Of
absolutely.
course, Of course, when we talk about actual numbers of what percentage is ROI, in how much period will the payback come and all that, it is all totally dependent on various factors that we spoke about today. We spoke about
Yes,
the
yes.
location, we spoke about the civil part, we spoke about the sustainability part, the racking, the MHE, and also we covered in detail about rack supported warehouse as one of the means where we can get a saving in investment and hence increase the ROI. And we finally concluded by saying that this is the right time for people to invest in a warehouse. And that too, as Mr. Dilip very rightly put, not invest just in the warehouse, but a rightly designed warehouse with all the elements designed to perfection and to give you that ROI that you want. So, no investment is bad if it is planned properly. So even if the investment is in a VNA or a very high racking system, if the calculation is such that you are able to save on your labor, as Dilip ji said, if you are able to get a high throughput, if you are able to save the cost of getting into another warehouse, which would have given you maybe a lower throughput, all those savings, if you consider in the initial design phase, you have done your ROI calculation to perfection. Then, of course, it is about execution, where the block two comes in, that how do you run a warehouse which has been designed efficiently so that you are able to get the maximum benefit out of this. So I just wanted to sum this whole conversation in this last 1 or 2 minutes. So before we sign off with a thank you note, Dilip ji, would you like to have some closing comments?
No, no, I particularly find myself at a loss of word when we find that there is still to be done a lot about increasing awareness in the industry or in the market, when people are not aware of the new generation racking systems and new generation material handling state of art machinery is available. People still are doubting about the safety part and that kind of a thing. So it is a kind of a metal on responsibility on the manufacturers uh, to see to it that this particular awareness is increased, so that people should know that the things are possible. Because I have been called by overseas clients also for designing the things, and in India there are people who said that, oh, there are some good new types of forklifts are also available. Such kind of a thing when I find, and good people, big people. So then I find that still there is a long way to go.
Right. So with that,
Am I
I
correct?
would like, yeah, absolutely. I completely agree because being from the same industry, when we also talk to people, sometimes we are surprised to note that very basic information is not available, and there is no fault or default on their part because they've never looked at this industry. They've never been a part of this industry. So similarly, we
Correct.
may be unaware of many things which may be happening in the IT world, maybe. So
Correct.
there will be so many things which are happening there, but we may not be aware
Hmm.
because we are not from that industry. So again,
Correct.
Mr. Dilip, we can continue chatting, but this is such an interesting topic for all of us. But thank you so much for taking out your valuable time and agreeing to be a part of this platform. I am really very grateful to have you as an expert to talk about a topic where I think I would not have been able to get a better speaker than yourself. And
No.
we hope to stay connected with you and maybe have more such enriching discussions. And maybe in
Yeah.
future, at some point in time, if we get an opportunity to once again interact with you on maybe a
Sure.
deeper discussion on this topic, that will be an entire privilege for us. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. And pleasure is mine also.
So thank you, Dilipji. And before we completely sign off, I request all the audience to please click on the link about feedback form and share your valuable feedback. And you can also put across your request in case you want us to cover any topic that is close to you in the interscholastic space, which you would like us to cover. And we would like to and we would definitely look at that, and if possible, we'll try to cover it in the forthcoming sessions. So with that, thank you very much for your time and hope to see you in our next edition in March. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Abhishek.